It was in New York, and they had a Wi-Fi pineapple strapped to a
I
Mavic,
haven't. I was
and
just.
some guy looks out his window at like whatever financial building, because these have all been done against financial institutions. Some guy looks out his window, and there's just a drone hovering outside of his window.
Welcome to the Security Cocktail Hour. I'm Joe Patty.
I'm Adam Roth.
Adam, this is going to be the best day you ever had, because today we're talking about one of your favorite subjects, drones.
Oh,
Excited?
Yeah, I'm absolutely. But I thought you were talking about how we use Gigamon with drones and do packet capturing.
Well, you know what? We might get there one day, but it's going
Yeah.
to take a while. This is a hard subject and
Yeah.
a very new subject. But fortunately, we have someone who really knows it, and we're glad to have him on. We've got Luke Canfield. Luke, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
It's great to have you. We were just talking before the show, and, Adam is super into drones, and I always like to talk about the security impacts of new technologies. And there's just not a big community of drone security experts. So we're really glad you were able to join us.
And it's basically brand new. Like the past couple of years, like people started thinking about the security implications of this, even though like a bit of my reading and research, like it's kind of something we should have been looking at like 10 years ago. But it was like drones are toys. They're either toys or they're a $10 million piece of like Boeing or Northrop Grumman equipment the military has, and there's like no in between, so we're not going to talk about it.
Well, it's interesting. I remember, I'm going to date myself. I remember when they started using those Predators, I think back in like Desert Storm in the early 90s. And I remember when they said, oh, it's a drone. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And even then I was thinking it was going to be like a little toy, and then it's like a whole big airplane. But that's changed. Now they are much smaller.
Yeah, like they have some really big ones. They have like the Global Hawks, which are huge, like a full-size airplane. And they can stay airborne for a very long time. And now you've got ones that are like the size of like dragonflies.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's an important distinction, right? People think drones, they think either, like you said, Luke, military level drones, which are probably drones based on biofuel, and then they have drones that are a little bit, they can be smaller, they can actually be that big too, but they're more based on battery life and more law enforcement or centric towards doing specific things like farms and crops and,
Yeah, they've
maps.
niched down a lot to very like it's not like a catch-all thing. Like you got the ag drones, which do anything from spraying pesticides to shining UV lights at birds to scare them away from chicken farms. I was reading about that. The Japanese are doing that, like to keep bird flu from spreading. They have like these drones that basically have a disco ball that shines like UV frequency light that we can't see, but birds can, to scare away pigeons. Like it tracks the pigeons that are trying to like roost on top of the building and like scares them off.
That I didn't know about. That's I guess that's very clever, and that's what a lot of this is about: people finding clever ways to use this stuff. But Luke, so you're a security guy, but you've done or dealt with or been into drones for a long time. How did you get into the whole area?
Back in the day, I wanted to fly. Well, I wanted to be a fighter pilot, but my vision's horrible. Went and got into poli-sci, national security, all that in college. And the big thing I was interested in was like conflict prediction, basically. I picked up a geography degree focusing in GIS and took a bunch of remote sensing classes. This one grad student, I wish I could remember her name, like a 400 level remote sensing course. She came in, it's like when the DJI Phantoms came out, and she had gone to Africa and used one to map open pit diamond mines and like made a 3D model of it. And I was like, okay, these things are cool. Like they're getting more accessible. A 23, 24-year-old woman from Ohio can go to Africa with one of these, spend maybe a couple $1,000s total, and like make these really detailed 3D maps that you can pull up on a computer and like go through. And I started thinking about the different uses for them, but for college students, so I was kind of barred, but I still read about all this stuff. And I also was reading about like novel uses, like new technology that's going on in like GWAT, global warfare, like a lot of like the weird stuff that was like starting to come out of like DARPA and like the kooky dudes that work in think tanks that were coming up with ideas for like battlefield uses for technology. I was in the National Guard. There's actually one of our captains was an engineering student up at Ohio State, and he had a whole idea for use case for using drone swarms with magnometers on them to circle a building to be able to like map out where hallways and rooms were based on the metalwork of the building. And he was talking about that. I think that like this is all like 2013, 2014.
Wow, that's amazing.
All this is amazing. Like from an architecture standpoint, from drones as a first responder, being able to provide immediate assistance, drones being able to lower or land with an AED or defibrillator, drones that are able to, provide cell phones to people that are stuck on mountains where regular helicopters and it's too dangerous. It's amazing the purposes and things that can happen today.
So, like, one of the things I'm wanting to get into, I'm actually the talk that I'm doing out in Denver with one of my friends who's really big into radio stuff, like Meshtastic, ham. It is basically taking that idea and making like airborne, like Meshtastic repeaters or ham radio repeaters or repeaters for other drones. Like, if you have like a disaster like Hurricane Helene down in North Carolina, which I actually drove through that night like before it got bad. And I've driven through there since. The place is still pretty messed up. But I've talked to people that were like utility workers during that, and they were using Meshtastic like nodes and handhelds to like report the fuel levels at generators, like when they were trying to boot the cell phone towers back up. So like the talk I'm doing out in Denver with my friend Evan is basically around how to use drones and radios for disasters.
So they were able to take a bunch of drones and I guess send them out and create a mesh network because the cellular was out, communication was out. And
they didn't do that. They were doing it by hand while driving in their utility trucks. And it was
really?
Like,
wow.
Yeah, no, to my knowledge, the only place that's really used drones for like flying signal repeaters has been in Ukraine. And a couple of companies are researching stuff for pipeline inspection in remote wilderness areas. Like they send the drone out, and they have like their radio relay repeaters like Meshtastic to communicate with like. You have like a drone mothership that's like 6 smaller drones. It lands, they take off, communicates with them. They go inspect the pipeline, come back, and it goes back home.
I think we spoke about this, right? SDN with drones, software-defined networks. Yeah. So I mean, that's amazing. Look, let me just do a selfish plug. KC2MGX. That's my ham radio call sign. I'm always into ham radio. I'm always into amateur radio. I've been into it for a long time. And the things that they're doing now with radio and drones is beyond amazing. Like I said before, I know it's not the same. It's a physical aspect of it. Person was stuck on a mountain. They couldn't talk to anybody. They couldn't get a helicopter up there. A drone was a lot easier to fly. More of an industrial level enterprise drone. Boom, they drop the cell phone from there, or they release it with a parachute. Now this person has the ability to do it, and especially with satellite phones and people. And what's even better is what people don't realize is the Verizon outage. If you had an iPhone, you were able to do text to satellite. If you had a Samsung S25 and greater, you can do text to satellite. If you had a Pixel phone, text to satellite. So if you have a good phone and you're stuck somewhere and you're able to get it, or if you don't have a phone and a drone can bring you a phone, you're going to be able to at least text.
Yeah, one of the things that I was looking at, because all this stuff's available online for either free or very cheap, and it was the 40 millimeter grenade launcher tubes that the Ukrainians made. I mean, it's what it is, but it's just like repurposing military tech, which is like where a lot of our back in the modern world came from, was military applications. That's just like, okay, let's not use it for lethal purposes. But you can, I was like playing around with this. It's like, okay, I'm going to upsize this a little bit to fit a, I think it's like a P25. Like, basically it's a radio repeater about the size of a Red Bull. Like it can fit inside of a Red Bull can. It's like, okay, if I can fit it inside of this, the parachute, I can load 6 of these on here instead of like loading 6 40-millimeter grenades like the Ukrainians and Russians are doing, and just have this drone flying like a straight path over a ridge line, or fly to a designated point, hover, drop out a repeater, and keep going, and you have an entire mesh network or radio repeater network files.
Nice.
That's clever. That's nice.
And what are how are the repeaters powered? So, satellite? I mean, solar?
So, battery or solar. If it's battery, they're going to have a short shelf life. If they're solar, those to be a bit bigger. You probably actually have to use a quadcopter, come up like a landing system. I haven't really thought about this because I was just thinking about this today while working on the talk for Denver. But they're like solar powered, like mesh-tastic repeaters and like ham radio repeaters.
So we spoke about this a little bit. Like, you put like you put like a little battery, as long as you load it correctly. Just to keep anybody that's listening to this, if you do have an FAA 107 license and you're gonna put equipment on top of your drone, please load it correctly and properly, and be careful and follow the laws. But if you load an access point and you can power it either from the drone or from a battery, can you imagine you're flying outside a place, a location, and it's like emulating somebody else's SSID, and then now you're capturing people's traffic, and you have a cell chip in there too, in that access point, and now you are a man-in-the-middle attack.
Yeah, it's so like the talk that I did last fall, which I'm actually going to probably put a video that isn't constrained by time limits up probably tonight, since I finished the slide decks right before this. Was basically using an LTE modem with a headless Cali instance, all the antennas on it, and either placing it into an orbit and using it as like a war-flying platform, which very quickly can turn into running man-in-the-middle attacks or evil twins, rogue access points, and which like drone becomes the carrier for like that like cyber attack payload. And there, like, I think there's been 3 incidents of that actually being used, and all of them were caught because they were right idea, horrible execution. Like, they were kind of mookish about it. Like, the one, I think it was in New York, and they had a Wi-Fi pineapple strapped to a Mavic.
I haven't.
And some guy looks out his window at like whatever financial building, because these have all been done against financial institutions. Some guy looks out his window, and there's just a drone hovering outside of his window, and like, yeah, they got caught. And
wow, that's not subtle.
Yeah, like it's just been the complete lack of subtlety. And the one that I used in my case study in my talk was, I think it was Eastern Financial, and they, like, their network team, like they got into the server and everything, but their network team's like, there's a rogue access point here. Like, they did signal tracing, and they went up on the roof, and there's like a Matrix 600 with like a Wi-Fi pineapple, laptop on it, battery packs.
Just like parked up on the roof, someone just dropped it in there?
Yeah, they landed on top of the HVAC, which, like, that'd be a good place to hide it if it was disguised as something that's supposed to be there, and not like a Matrix 600, which is a huge drone. Yeah. Like, it's like a $10,000 drone too. Like, and it's not subtle. There's nothing subtle about this. And they just go upstairs, like they go up on the roof of their building, and there's like, well, that's not supposed to be there, obviously. And those guys got caught.
I have a pineapple pager now, by the way, the smaller form factor, which we were supposed to put out. We didn't get a chance to put it out yet, but a pineapple page is a nice little piece of equipment.
I actually was, when I was out at DEFCON, I think was when they were like showing it off before it like went on sale. And I look, because I have like the big one.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that pager's be a lot easier to attach to a drone than like this big square with like 3 antennas sticking out of it. Then I have to work on like how am I going to modify the drone for ergonomics for all these antennas and everything else and the battery and like making a power jumper.
Well, that's amazing that you've been thinking about that, because this attack, I guess you've called it some war flying or the man in the middle stuff. Adam has been talking about putting a pineapple on a drone and doing this, like, I think as long as I've known him, for like 10 years or so. So it's like we've come full circle.
Well,
It's finally possible, Adam. Just don't get caught.
I'm not going to do anything illegal. I never will.
That's like when it first started getting talked about. I think it was Glitch Tech, which I don't know if he's still active anymore. He was on Twitter. I want to say he wrote for Wired every now and then. Like, I don't know the guy. Like, when I was researching this, because I've thought about this for years too, but it's never did anything with it until last year when I was blessed with ample time and money. But like the earliest I can see when talking about this stuff is like 2016, 2017, 2018. And then like suddenly, like in the 2020s, like you have like 3 cases where people were getting caught doing exactly that with the Wi-Fi pineapple.
So nothing would surprise me, Luke and Joe, if this attack in Venezuela involved drones doing some offensive security.
Yeah,
And sorry,
doing some e-war stuff.
Yeah.
I think I saw
Well, they
like
could acknowledge that, kind of.
yeah, they alluded to it. They didn't say what their means or methods
Yeah.
were. But I do, again, this could be completely made up. It might have came to me in a dream. But when I was reading about everything in Venezuela, like I thought that I read somewhere from like the ground report, like from the Venezuelans, there were a lot of drones in the air.
and that would not surprise me. And this is the funny part. It's like, Joe's probably sick at me, but like, as you probably know, I'm going for a doctorate, and my doctorate is in, cyber ethical warfare. And what I have found is that there's no delineation between a cyber attack and cyber warfare. And what we're doing these days, Venezuela was absolutely acknowledged as a hybrid attack. How they did the hybrid attack, I don't know whether it included drones or not. There's people alluding to it and not, but what we have not come to is like what constitutes cyber attacks versus cyber warfare. What constitutes kinetic and those thresholds. So now we're in a very muddy area. There's no real treaties based on cyber warfare, and that also brings in drones, because all these things are in the mix together. They're all connected now.
Yeah, it's like one of the big things I was into, because like I did a poli-sci degree, it's actually international studies with an emphasis on intelligence analysis and national security when I was at WVU, because I wanted to go do intel for the government. And they weren't hiring for that at the time. They didn't want you unless you had a math degree or spoke Russian. And
Я не говорю по-русски.
Pierogi, Niet, vodka,
Yeah, there you go, vodka.
Borscht.
That's what I know.
But one of the big things I was into, and I actually wrote about a lot of this stuff, and I wish I didn't have a corrupted computer, because I wish I had all of my papers and not just a couple of them. But like, it's like getting into like gray zone warfare and like hybrid warfare, and like doing these attacks and doing things that skirt like legal treaties, and like are so new that like we don't know how to classify it yet, and doing attacks that stay below the threshold of like kinetic retaliation. Like, which is a big thing the Iranians do, like through their proxies over in the Middle East, like the Houthis, and I think, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but there's an oil field attack in Saudi Arabia, which the Iranians hit it with a cyber attack, and then started hitting it with drones and missiles. And it's like, well, what was the leading element? Was it the cyber attack, or was it the kinetic aspect of it?
It is beyond amazing what is happening in our world today. And speaking of thresholds, there's been, at least within NATO, in Article 5, for those who don't know, is attack on one, is attack on all. And whenever NATO 5 is I guess discussed or brought for discussion by NATO, what they talk about is whether or not, and I think it has something to do with NATO Article 4 about security threats. Was my country, was this NATO member um, put in a bad position from a security standpoint? And if it rises to that level for NATO Article 4, then the people on that discuss NATO Article 5 talk about each time there's no real threshold. Did this rise to the occasion where they were attacked? We talk about radiological, biological, chemical warfare, but we don't talk about cyber, and that's where all these different countries that are involved with Article 5, they all have different perceptions of what really is an attack, and we need better definitions because as we progress, we want to ensure that if somebody really does have to attack because they feel they're threatened, that they don't decide, well, let's undo a dam and let the water flood into a village. We got to be very careful of how we move forward.
Well, it's like what the Russians have been doing in Ukraine, going back all the way to like the the Maiden Revolt, Maiden Revolution, like back in 2014, where they actually did cyber to physical attacks to shut down the power. And does that warrant a kinetic escalation? And it's like, well, the California power grid, that was the Metcalf attack, I want it in 08 or 09, and which was a physical attack against infrastructure, but anymore that probably have a cyber attack against like SCADA systems. What the Israelis and US attributed did to the Iranians with Stuxnet at that nuclear facility. So like, say Southern California's entire power grid just gets fried by something similar to what happened in Russia. Like, there are going to be like second, third, fourth, fifth order effects. Like, there are going to be high casualty events that could possibly be more high casualty than if it had just been a kinetic attack. Would that warrant a kinetic escalation? Most people would say, yeah, but you are also getting into attribution and international law about like, does that actually constitute like kinetic retaliation?
And that goes full circle right back to the drones, right? If you're using drones that don't have attribution and you're using these drones to do from a cyber attack to a kinetic attack and they're destroying infrastructure, how do you show attribution? Somebody might have bought it off of Amazon. You just don't know.
Once there's the thing recently, I think it was the Netherlands, where they had the drones harassing the airport. A lot of drones. I'll have to send it to you, but there's actually like this one thing I found. It's like kind of an obscure like news thing. It's like drone stuff, unless it's like a big fiery spectacular thing, doesn't really make main news. You have to go looking for like drone specific news sites. But there's like a bunch of students from some university that actually tracked the drones back and followed them and their flight paths and like did a bunch of analysis with the radar and traced them back to 3 Russian linked ships, which the whoever the European version of the Coast Guard is, or they're like the Interpol, I'll just say that, like throw out an agency, like whoever does security for like boats and stuff over there. And there were no drones on these 3 Russian ships, but like this group of like students drove around tracking the drones. I think they even flew their own drones out to the ships to look around. And it's like, no, these drones are probably coming from the Russians because like all their flight patterns like indicate they're going back to this area of these 3 ships that are just kind of hanging out. And like they did OSINT and all that, and the ships were actually connected to a subsidiary owned by like a Russian contractor that actually does a lot of drone work.
Oh,
Which I'm not going to try to pronounce. Just like someone threw consonants on a page.
okay. Well, it's interesting that they were able to track these things. I mean, you just know at least commercial drones. They're pretty noisy. They're not subtle when you hear someone buzzing in your neighborhood. With that, generally speaking, the smaller ones, I'm assuming they're stealthy, that they're hard to pick up on radar, that they're a lot quieter. I mean, especially at night, how do you even find these things?
That's like a detection. Like like drones have all sorts of complications with them, detection. Unless they're using like a very like small scale radar, which is just now coming out because of the stuff in Ukraine. One radar, if they're even picked up because they're made of plastic, they're small. It looks like a bird if it even shows up. They're hard to visually identify, which I think that's like an area that AI could be useful for like tracking. And there's like different ways you could do this, because otherwise you're just going to be live tracking, which would be like taking like a CCTV camera and like running analysis pixel changes like in like every third or fourth screen cap. And there's acoustics, which they've done in Ukraine, and I think we did a little bit of in Syria during the ISIS days. We in air quotations of like using acoustic sensors, but which was adapted from like sniper detection in Iraq and Afghanistan. But the issue with that, if you're like in an urban environment, there's so much background noise you have to filter through that you're not going to be able to hear the drone. But they've been doing a good bit of that in Ukraine with the acoustic sensors. And then there's like radio frequency tracking, which I have a Hack 1 RF SDR laying on my desk over there. Actually, I just found it, thank goodness. And it's actually one of the more popular methods in Ukraine now for detecting drones that aren't the fiber optic, like fly-by-wire ones. It is like looking for like the different frequencies that are like on the like 900 megahertz, 133, 5 gigahertz, 2.4 gigahertz, to like the different telemetry data that drones send off, and like being able to like actually track that using a directional antenna. And there's been like a lot of advancements with that. Like it's usually like people making it themselves. Defense contractors are getting in on it now. There's like some expensive systems that look really flashy. But basically like hooking it up to like a Raspberry Pi or like some other computer, and it basically scans and like locks in on the direction that the drone's coming from based on those frequencies. Another issue, because I've been trying to do that because a lot of these people in Ukraine that are tracking drones using radio frequency are using just $30, $300 SDRs and like a Linux instance. But the issue.
Sorry, Luke. What's an SDR?
Software-defined radio.
Okay, software-defined radio. Okay,
yeah,
got it.
Basically takes all the hardware components of a radio and runs them as software. Like they're.
And I'm guessing it's a little tiny thing too.
Yeah. There's like little ones that are like the size of a cigarette lighter, and then you got like the ones that are like the size of a deck of cards, like this one. And SDR++ is one. The Linux distro that I like for it is Dragon OS, because it comes preloaded with all the SDR software suites, or you can install them on any Linux instance basically. And I've actually been practicing trying to do drone detection with that. But the problem here, because like I'm in an urban area, is there's so many wireless access points.
Yeah.
That just the background noise. But if you're in like a remote location where there's no Wi-Fi points, theoretically, like I could go detect this using this equipment.
Anyone who's done wireless work in a city, even if you're not doing IDS or anything, if you're just doing site surveys, I mean, you see, like downtown Manhattan, any city, there's just SSIDs all over the place, and it makes me wonder at some point if we really do have Amazon delivering packages at one point, is whatever frequencies the drone use going to get just as noisy, just as thick, just as tough to pick out?
So, I was gonna say, yeah. So, typically drones fly two ways for commercial drones. Without going into modifications, right? You have either cellular on board on that drone is a cellular card, and they're flying them. And sometimes those cellular cards are on private networks, like for whatever vendor it is, Verizon, T-Mobile.
Now, is that for control? Is that for control for flying the thing, or is that like the payload it's sending?
No.
Both. Okay.
No. They can do that too, but built into a drone is either Wi-Fi control typically in commercial drones, and correct me if I'm wrong, Luke, or it's cellular. If it's
Okay.
cellular,
hmm
that vendor, that carrier can create a private network where it's not accessible by everybody else. It's encapsulated into his own network where that's communicated. What also drones do over a certain weight, and that's all commercial drones basically, is that they have a ADSB out. An ADSB out, it's exactly the same as a plane. So when a plane is flying, they do ADSB out. They let you know where that plane is on radar and stuff. The only thing drone doesn't have, unless I'm wrong, is ADSB in, where it can't ingest that there are other planes, drones near it. Yes, without going into specific vendors, there's a vendor out there that does identify drones, and it does it very well. But there are other people trying to get into the game to find other ways of doing it because it does know signatures of frequencies and how it operates, and that's how it knows the drone's coming. Because a drone flying is going to be different from a ham radio that's going to be different from something else.
Okay, but that gets us into something else that I wanted to talk about. You're talking about, I look at that as similar to a phone or whatever. You're buying the stuff off the shelf. It's got some kind of identifier. You can track it and all that for the people who are being good. But Luke, from what I understand, when it comes to drones, you're very much in the world of do-it-yourself, that you can build custom ones, you can build custom gear.
So a lot of the laws and stuff coming out about like, oh, we need to like some cities up north, municipalities. There's that one state out west, like Utah, I think, maybe. Don't quote me on that.
Well, if it's something that's illegal, it's New Jersey is in there because everything's illegal here. So,
I mean, your all's property taxes make everything illegal, but that's another story.
You know what? That's a good segue. We'll take a little break since you mentioned property taxes to talk about what we're drinking today. So, Luke, what have you got? Because you called this one as our esteemed guest.
I've got a Kentucky Mule because I didn't want to go out and get vodka to make Moscow Mule. I also have a Moonshine Mule sitting here for when this is gone. But it is a Moscow Mule. Substitute the vodka out with bourbon or substitute the vodka out with moonshine.
That's interesting because I've got here, and then I got this as a gift, some Old Forester, a Kentucky bourbon that I've never had before, and I actually like it quite a bit. But we got some kind of Kentucky karma going on today. Adam, what have you got?
So I chose not to go back out because it was snowing out. So I ended up drinking, shameless plug, I'm drinking whiskey in my Security and Mixologist Academy cup, which is beautiful. That's the new core system that we're coming out with, but it's whiskey.
That's
so
a nice looking mug.
I'll send you one. I am going to send you one.
Oh, I appreciate that. I love collecting coffee mugs.
Well, that's a cool mug, Adam. But, for the show, I think we need, if you're going to be drinking alcohol or something, I think we need to invest in some glasses. Like we got this Security Cocktail Hour logo martini glasses. Maybe we need some like that. I feel bad seeing you drinking liquor out of a cup.
If you could get like a logo, like a Moscow Mule cup, one of these copper cups, like that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah,
like
the copper
on a whiskey like rock glass.
Yeah, that kind of thing. I mean, the Moscow Mule in the copper cup, that's totally acceptable. So the coffee mug's a little weird.
Yeah.
You seem like you're in an old private detective show, when you think the guy's having his coffee and it's really.
Oh, that's the whole idea. But I'm doing product placement. But look, yes, we spoke before the show started and before that we're looking to have a long-term relationship. So we're going to talk about what that design looks like for the glass. We'll come out with a glass. I'll send you the Academy cup first, and then we'll talk about making some custom glasses, so that when we my passion, Joe's going to slap me right now, is to come out with our own one-day security conference up in New York. I don't know if it's the end of 2026 or the beginning of 2027. But we'll have a couple of those glasses where we'll raffle off or win a contest for that when we do that.
That sounds pretty good. I'd love to come up for that.
Oh, I'd like to have you on.
I haven't been up to New York in 12 years, so and I have quite a few friends up there, so it'd be good to get them out to a conference because they're all tech people too.
Yeah, you'll like it. It smells like dope now. It's really cool.
Oh, well, what?
So
Last time I went there, it smelled like cold and sour milk down in Times Square. But
Well,
yeah, well, the city's evolving. Times change.
yeah, whatever the case is, it's still New York City. It's either going to be New York City or Northern New Jersey. We'll have the conference, and you'll bring those 12 people because we need as many people as we can get to the show.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay, so Luke, I interrupted you. Where
yeah, I made a joke about property taxes up in New Jersey. Oh yeah, DIY drones, like drones being illegal and stuff. Like trying to get rid of the off-the-shelf drones, unless you're dealing with like people of mookish behavior and temperament, like the people that were hovering outside of a financial window on the 30th floor, flying Wi-Fi pineapple. Those could be. They have so much stuff in them. Like when I lived up in DC for years, like I couldn't even take like my Mavic Mini. I couldn't even get it off the ground because like a 50-mile like exclusion zone, like drones, without getting like a very special permit to fly in that area because there's so much sensitive stuff up there. But for a couple $100 on the low end, depending on what your intent is, you can throw a drone together with like a Speedy Bee or a Maytech like flight controller and just fly it or program it, because you can program flight paths and all this stuff into it using ArtiPilot or Betaflight. And there's no proprietary software on there like DJI or these other commercial drones have. You actually have to be connected to the internet, you have your phone connected to it, and it has all your data. You have to register. You have to, depending on the size, I would have to register it with the FAA. And you can just fly it without any restriction.
Okay, so you build one like that, like you say, you get a flight controller, you obviously get batteries and all this stuff. And I know you can get the propellers, probably on.
You can print those off. You can get them. You can get them in like packs of 4, 8, 12 off of Amazon for like $20, depending on the size of them.
Okay, so I've been curious. So, okay, you're building an aircraft, and even if it's a small one, and I've always thought, maybe my thinking is out of date, that if you're building an aircraft, you got to know something about aeronautical engineering and all that sort of stuff. Do you, or is it just like these controllers just expect to have something with 4 propellers and that's it?
Quadcopters are easier than fixed wing because you're not dealing with the aerodynamics. Like a quadcopter, I saw a Russian quadcopter that was literally a tree log, like a hollowed out tree log packed with kinetic stuff, with like 4 propellers like jammed through it.
Yeah.
Like
I think I've seen that in Ukraine too. Don't they like build them in the field, and they use a piece of plywood or whatever they got around,
or PVC pipe, garbage, sheet metal. Like that's not very aerodynamic at all.
Okay. Let me add, Joe. You can go online and literally get the code to print out pretty much the whole entire drone, like a quadcopter. It says, use this to print all the pieces, and then go online and order those parts. And you're making a drone yourself without attribution to any one vendor.
So you mean a 3D printer? You're talking
3D
about.
printer. Yeah. You're not printing on a piece of paper and making a plane. So the point I'm making is, they say, this is what you print, and this is where you order the parts on Amazon or on any special drone manufacturer that sells the parts. So it's that, or it'll say, go print this, go buy this DJI propellers, go buy this, radio, go buy this, and you're buying it, you're sourcing it all together, and now you built a drone that 50 other people, 100 people already made.
Yeah, and the crowd, like, it's like one of the big things, like the whole talk I did, like calling it like the drone renaissance, is like the crowdsourcing, where like you have like thousands, tens of thousands of people around the world who largely was driven by like the FPV hobbyists, like the drone racing people.
First person view, Joe.
Well, that's the glasses when you're.
Yeah.
controlling the thing. Okay, cool.
And any design that isn't good gets thrown aside, and what works is good, and they just build off of those. And a lot of the designs for like the Kit Bash drones, like printing off stuff and throwing it together parts, like the stuff in Ukraine, like I think, like, in my opinion, this is just completely my opinion, is advanced the drone space like 15 years ahead of where it was 2 years ago.
Really?
Like they've actually designed new propellers to get like take like a 12-inch quadcopter with the battery and attaching like a payload to it. Well, they've just like, because like when you're dealing with drones, like you're fighting battery life with thrust, with weight for like how far it can go. Well, they've modified and tweaked and made like iterative changes on the propellers to get those drones to carry more further than just a regular drone like a short time ago. It wouldn't be able to take off with that weight, but they've made new types of propellers and designed them and tested them and tweaked them like week by week until like it can do this new thing that they needed it to do instead of making a bigger drone. But
yeah, look, correct me if I'm wrong. I think one drone flew for 48 days, but what they did was that drone was charging their batteries from a solar panel on top of the drone that allowed them to fly constantly. Does that sound accurate?
yeah, I read something about that. It was a fixed wing orbiter, and I think the guy behind that, people behind it, I think they were engineering students, and that was like one of their proofs of concept for like whatever they were doing for like their engineering department. And yeah, I think it stayed aloft. It had really long wings. I wonder if it's the one I'm thinking of. And it was a glider, and like it would get on the thermal drafts at night, stay in the air, and it was like a glider. It would like kill the engines to save power, sputter them back up, and during the day it would recharge.
And then there's other kids. They made the drone. They made a drone submersible. That was really cool too.
I saw that, and like everyone's like, it was just like, oh, I was told only DARPA was working on like drones that could go underwater. And then you've got like, I'm pretty sure the guy was a teenager too.
Yeah. It was a high school kid.
Yeah, he's like 16, 17. And like he's in his pool in his backyard, and like this drone's like underwater doing underwater drone stuff, and it comes up to the top and it takes off and flies. It was so cool. And
I'd love an underwater drone, because I'll just tell you, me growing up in Jersey, going down the shore and everything, being by the water, there's lots of really interesting stuff down there. Especially in Jersey, you got guns, bones, and God knows what else.
You know the kid's 16 years old, and he got recruited by some, like, we'll put you through school.
His college is paid for. Like,
yeah.
I hope that guy's college is paid for.
Well, but it might be paid for, but he might be working for like a 3-letter agency or the military at this point.
I mean, the benefits are pretty good. I mean, if I was his age and wasn't stupid and a teenager, like, yeah, that'd be great. And it's like they got pension.
And the irony is, the biggest thing that they're talking about now with these UAO, or AKA UFOs, is a lot of these UFOs that are flying in the sky, they're also going submersible, and they claim this is where they're hiding. So it's kind of ironic, right, that this kid creates this submersible that can go in his pool, come up, fly, and do that. The applications are so military. I'm not saying it can't be anything else, but they're so military based. I mean, it's amazing what you can do with that, right?
I guess that kind of reminds me like the drone boats, because like my brand of like neurodivergent autism stuff, it's like things that fly. I don't care about boats. I can't swim. I don't like the water. I was out in DEFCON. I talked to a couple of the engineers. I think it's Havoc.
Okay.
Who they're designing the drone boats. Like these are like from like 10, 30 up to 100 feet for the military, and they can do whatever you need. But like they have such a low profile and they're solar charged, and they're deployed like in squadrons. Like they had like their whole booth there, like showing like what they do. And like it's not like they're controlling, like when they deploy a boat to an area, they're not deploying one boat, they're deploying like a squadron of boats.
Oh,
And they can
okay.
carry cruise missiles, but they're telling me the cruise missile launch actually will destroy the boat, which makes sense. Where it can carry Navy SEALs in because they're telling me like their test group for their boats were former Navy SEALs who are riding them like jet skis, which they didn't design them for, but they're like, okay, well, that's an application. Or they can carry like quadcopters or other munitions, electronic warfare, radio stuff. But they're basically a bass boat or like a fishing boat with the bigger ones.
But that's, are we talking about underwater submersible or above water?
Right at the water line,
Oh, okay.
like they're in the waves, but
Because
like they could
yeah,
quickly that could quickly become like a submarine. Like I know the Australians actually deployed a autonomous submarine that it wasn't small, it was fairly big, but it's still an autonomous underwater vehicle. And like I'm just thinking of like the shipwreck like explorers and stuff like the Titanic and like
yeah,
these other stuff like
Mm.
even like 20, 30 years ago they were sending down like tethered like
yeah, tethered, yeah.
Yeah.
submersibles with cameras and lights on.
Because that's the interesting part, right? You can't be autonomous and be submersible. They don't go together. You could be autonomous and submersible, but eventually you have to float a buoy or come up to
Mm-hmm.
the surface to get more instructions or to get communications. Because underwater you can't communicate, but unless I'm missing something, but you can bring an antenna close enough to the surface in order to communicate. So yeah, that's pretty cool, right?
And but back to that kid with like the hybrid flying underwater one. Like I was actually talking to people back in December, like when I found out about it, and like some of them were involved like an engineering department. It was like we were talking about like how would we do this, and it's like, well, you need a material that's waterproof. You're going to need gaskets and things to keep water from getting in, shorting out the motors, and you just go to Lowe's and get like silicon sealant. Like, however that kid did it, like I would like to find out how he did because I would like to try to build.
Here's
I'd love one of those just because it's so damn cool. That's awesome.
so I have a deck in the back of my house, and the deck in the back of my house I wanted to clean it up when I bought the house. So I had a guy that did steel, and he actually welded some of the holes and everything. But what he told me to get is there's a special marine sealant, and that marine sealant, that silicone, is better than almost every silicone you have. The only issue is if you created a submersible and you put the electronics in there and you seal it and it's 100% seal proof, the only question I would have is how do you dissipate the heat? Because you can't let the heat build up with electronics. So that's another issue in itself, right?
But that's like back to the flying drones, especially like the quadcopters. They're more open, so you have like air cooling. But a lot of like the fuselages of fixed wing ones, you actually have to deal with heat buildup. Like
Yeah.
there's like
You do.
Yes, of course.
But they're all battery powered, right?
yeah, but
They get hot.
anything broadcasting like they get very very hot.
Yes.
And
It's radiation. Yeah.
you have to deal with like it not melting the plastic or catching on fire or melting the solder. You have to have good solder. But you have to like deal with like the ergonomics, the center of gravity of the aircraft. That way it doesn't just like fall out of the sky. So like when you're doing like fixed wing stuff, like you really have to like you can print out things to balance it, but you're usually balancing it by hand. You know, like you have like I have a food scale that I can measure stuff out on. So like it's like okay, because you're dealing with like takeoff weight, mean takeoff weight, payload weight, and all that. Then you're also dealing with like the aerodynamics of it, but you also have to deal with like the heat buildups. Like a lot of these models, like you can just go on like Colts 3D or Maker's World, Printables, Thingiverse, or any of the other STL sites. Like a lot of these models, they actually have like air channels in them, and
Yeah.
there's like other cooling.
So they cool through it. Yeah, they cool through it.
And there's other cooling things like running metal, like dissipate the heat. But
Even
it's
water
usually-
going in and out of a tube inside
Yeah.
the device so that it gets cooled by the outside as it comes back in.
and that would make more sense to me, even though I don't really know anything about water drones other than like talking to the Havoc guys.
No,
It would
I
be
meant
like-
I meant
no.
even the air. If you circulate the water inside and it's still sealed, and it goes outside, the cooling of that water. I kind of had that with my pool.
No, you got to still exchange the heat somehow.
Yeah.
Get the heat out,
Outside. Yeah. So it's
it'd be kind of like a gaming computer because like my computer right now has
Yeah,
a
exactly.
water cooler on it.
Exactly. Yeah. The gaming with the water cooler. But you know what the funny part, Joe, just so you know, is depending on how you fly a drone, the angle that you fly the drone, that changes the center of gravity, and that also increases stall rates and then decreases stall rates depending on how you fly it. So if you're flying a drone,
You mean in a fixed wing or in those quadcopters?
the quadcopters too. I don't know about the fixed
They
wings.
they stall?
They can
Really?
stall. Yeah, depending on how you
Oh.
fly it. Yeah, absolutely.
I thought that was a fixed wing thing.
No,
I guess
it's
not.
both. It's both.
Anything that's airborne could stall out depending on the angle you're taking with it. Like the FPV racing drones, those guys amaze me. I feel like I'm too old to like really get into the FPV racing because like they have all the neuroplasticity that. But like just go watch like a YouTube video of these guys racing them, and they're doing like all sorts of like flips and barrel rolls and
With
quarter eight roll.
No.
quadcopters?
Quadcopters.
Yeah, the quadcopters, but the FPV quadcopters,
Yeah.
they're a special one. They're a little bit different. Just so you know, Joe, the FPV quadcopters are used also by police and also by military, and actually there are private companies now that hire FPV racers. So if there's an active shooter, they actually have these quadcopters stationary in a school, and they fly them into the school to look for the
That
active
makes so
shooters.
much sense.
Yeah, you've
Yeah.
heard of that, right, Luke?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I think in states out in the Midwest, I think it was like Minnesota or Wisconsin. That was where like one of those companies was like going to test that at. Because
I
like,
would love to see that deployed because I think that's fantastic.
like the FPV racing like quadcopters, they're get like 100 kilometers an hour or faster,
Yeah.
and that's only like that's they could probably go even faster. Like, but don't want to crash them. But if you don't care, and just kind of throw caution to the wind.
Yeah, typically law enforcement, what they do is like more like the SWAT or the special. What they do is they come up to a window, they break the window, they put the FPV in. Usually these drones are the drones that have protected propellers. They have the propeller guards. So if they do fly it in, they're hoping not to like hurt anybody. So they break the window, they go in, they fly. They go floor to floor by stairways or maybe into an elevator and they come up, whatever. Obviously, you can't control elevators from unless there's other ways I don't know about. But they go in, they look for the active shooter, they look for the hostage taker. They do video and they get intelligence back through situational awareness.
See, I really like that because, well, I got a whole other diatribe I can go on about, school security. So I got kids in high school, but when the thing that immediately pops into my mind is that they do one of those shelter in places or something. They got an active shooter in the building. That if they can say, hey, he's over on this wing, everyone on this wing, get him out. But I am no tactical expert, so we'll see what happens.
If you want, you can enroll in the Luke Canfield class and you can become a tactical expert.
Well, I'm definitely going to become a test student when Luke writes a class for us. That's definite.
It'd be great because like I need to start working on that because it's like, oh, that stuff's going to be in the fall. And I was like talking to someone who actually ran workshops and courses. He actually makes a living doing it. And he was like, oh, if you're wanting to do it in the fall, he's like, you need to have like this all done and planned out by like April at the latest.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's like, because like this, he's like, time goes by pretty quick with these kind of things. Like you can't just like keep putting it off like another week. So like, that's one of the things I'm working on with like the whole Denver thing coming up.
I'm definitely interested if you do something after Denver, and I would love to fly out, like I told you, and take a look at this. If you need my help, I'll love to assist you.
I will definitely be in contact about that because I could use all the help I could get for like, it's like the entire thing, like setting up like a village, like there's at these conferences, there's usually a CTF involved. So like I'm trying to figure out like, what would a drone CTF be? I mean, you've got the forensic side of drones, but like that's just a forensic CTF. You've got the OSINT side of drones, but that's just an OSINT CTF. Like, because where drones kind of sit like at this like weird intersection of everything
Yeah,
now.
absolutely. Yeah.
It's like, how do you involve all of that in making a capture the like CTF is capture the flag? It's like a contest.
Like,
how do you also do that safely at a conference without drones flying all over the
it would
place?
have to be
Have to do something.
It had to be like simulated with like the data, because like there's also like you get into Part 107 stuff with like FAA regulations, and like how they did it at DEFCON is they had like these tiny drones in like a big
yeah.
basketball cage, like you see at, like carnivals and stuff.
Yes.
Really, like the thing the guys ride the motorcycles in, that kind of thing.
It's almost like it's a square, but it's an MMA cage, and what they do is
it's one of those cages.
Yeah,
okay.
it's almost like that with a ceiling. But as long as it's
drone
under
cage match.
Yeah,
right.
so as long as it's under 0.55, it's a hobbyist drone. You just got to be really careful. You have to have propeller guards and everything else. You can use the drone. Maybe if it's like flying from one cage to another cage, you can use it to do SSID reconnaissance, do a red team, capture the shit, and come back. Excuse my language. But it's amazing what you can come up with.
I mean, I've done my best not to curse on here because like every other word out of my mouth is usually an obscenity, so it's
that was
fine
my
by
one
me.
time. That was my one time.
That also gets like the Part 107 stuff. People need to understand, like, there's so many rules and regulations. You can't fly over people. You need propeller guards. Can't be. You still have to stay under a certain weight. Which one of the reasons, like, starting my own LLC around drones is like Part 108 coming out. I want to see about that.
Oh my God! So a lot of
what's that? Sorry,
it's beyond visual line of sight. He'll explain.
Yeah, like
Okay.
Part 107 is for like people like us. Like, we want to fly a drone bigger than like a Mavic Mini, like over 250 grams, and you can't go beyond visual line of sight. Can't fly over people. You can't fly under cars. It's like a lot of insurance. Anything like resulting in like over $1,000 in damages, you have to report to the FAA. It's all self-reported, so it's kind of keeping honest people honest.
okay.
However, another asterisk, the FAA will fine the ever-loving hell out of you if you get caught doing something illegal, like in the tens of thousands of dollars. It's not like a slap
In
on
the tens of thousands
Yes.
for flying a drone.
It is.
Wow.
It's not a slap on the wrist. Like, there's one woman up around your all's way, like New Jersey or New York, who I think she was a realtor, and don't quote me, but I was reading about this like a long time ago, so I've forgotten details. They fined her almost $100,000
Per instance. So it could be $10K per instance. So if they caught you doing something, and you did 10 house inspections in one day. I'm paraphrasing. Don't hold me to it. It could be like $100,000 because you did 10 of them in the day. That's $100,000.
Yeah, I've seen those online. Because like everyone else, I check the neighbors' houses out on Zillow and my friends to see what they cost. And now they do like drone flyovers and stuff of the house to show how lovely it is and everything. And she got fined for that, like $100,000.
And even if it's under the weight that you have to get licensed, because it's commercial, it automatically becomes licensable.
Really?
So if I was inspecting my own house and I had a drone that was less than 0.55 pounds, I go by pounds, and I flew it over my house to check my roof, as long as I didn't fly over somebody, and it also depends on where you are. New York City does not allow you to fly drones without having a permit from NYPD. But let's say it's in a place where you don't require a local municipality permit, and I flew it over my house. That's legal. But like if my neighbor says, "Can you fly it over my house?" I'll pay you $100. You know what I mean? Like, it starts going towards commercial. You're not supposed to fly it over somebody for a payment and whatever else.
Yeah.
Okay, so the takeaway I'm getting from this is this ain't like slapping together a gaming PC. You can do whatever you want. This is like
you can slap it together.
Regulated stuff. You got to know the rules.
You can slap it together, but if you do something that isn't kosher with like Part 107 or any of the FAA or FCC rules, now you're going to get fined. You're going to get fined really hard.
And they're an enforcement agency too, in a sense.
Yeah, like during COVID, during the lockdowns, there's like a lot of like people like, okay, we're locked down or have to be at home, and like I'm going to fly my drone. There's a guy down in Florida. I used to watch his videos. He had like one of the Parrot fixed wing drones. the one like he was just doing like landscape stuff. He's like flying down like an empty highway in the Everglades, and the FAA had people going on YouTube and watching people's YouTube videos to see if there are any violations,
Yeah.
and then going and find them. And this guy got fined like $20,000 for flying over an empty highway because YouTube, because it was technically monetized on YouTube, they considered it a commercial flight.
Yes.
Oh, well, we don't have to worry about that, Adam, right?
No, well, first of all, I have no drone video online, and second of all, like you just there are a lot of people that do the FPV. They show the tricks they're doing and stuff like that. If you start making money from it, it's commercial. If somebody says, "I want to send you something to sponsor, like fly my drone in this thing," and you're flying the drone, you just got paid by using their drone.
Yep.
Okay. Well, like we say with everything else, don't break the law. These things should be used for good, just like the hacking tools and everything else.
Well, it's like my presentation. I had like this big disclaimer on like the very first slide while I'm introducing myself. It's like, listen, hacking is cool and legal penetration. Like you have a statement of work agreement and SLA signed. You can hack all you want as long as like it has like an entity or organization's permission. Don't go out and do illegal hacking. Don't do illegal flying because you will end up in jail and there's like no Wi-Fi, the lighting's bad, the food's bad, the roommates are bad, everything's bad about going to federal prison.
And you can't fly your drone out of the cell, but you can fly a drone into the prison area and drop lobster.
And I can also tell you, if you get into prison and they ask you, what are you in for? And you say illegal drone flying, I think you're in big trouble.
Yeah, you're like...
Not really. They might tell you to bring their friends. Listen to what Luke's going to tell you about the lobster.
There was an incident back in December. I cannot remember where it was. Was it up your all's way there, Adam?
I don't remember where it was, but it was freaking hilarious.
They flew in lobster, menthol cigarettes,
into a prison.
Into a prison.
Some type of candy. It's a carton of menthols, lobster, like a lobster dinner, corn on the cob, and like a bunch of just other random stuff like money and drugs. But like,
you sure this wasn't Goodfellas? Because like, you know,
it was Goodfellas
when they're having the dinner and everything.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, in a sense, it was.
Yeah.
But a lot of these prisons, like they'll post the pictures, like the contraband they collect, like a lot of police agencies do, like when they have a big drug bust. But you have like lobster tails, menthol cigarettes, like snack cakes, and like money and drugs.
In December 2025, a drone attempted to deliver a surf and turf holiday meal, including raw steaks, crab legs, and Old Bay seasoning to inmates at the Lee Correctional Institution.
It was in Maryland.
No, South Carolina.
No. He mentioned Old Bay, it's Maryland. Automatically Maryland in my mind.
So now it's a misdemeanor to fly a drone near a prison, punishable by 30 days in jail.
That's actually kind of wild to me because, like, the contraband's, like, okay, that would be drug smuggling, which makes it a felony. It's nothing. There's one book that I read. I was down in Dallas back in December for a buddy of mine got married, and I was like, didn't want to get a hotel room for like another day. So I basically was hanging out in Starbucks until like there was like the wedding reception and going to the airport. And this book was amazing to me. It is called The Criminal Drone Evolution, Cartel Weaponization of Aerial IEDs.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, it said the same thing, yeah.
I mean, the people that wrote it were like DEA, academics, drone people also, but like it's an interesting read. And it's a really quick read because I read it in like 8 hours because I had nothing to do for 8 hours. But like a big thing that they're talking about is like the cartels actually pioneered a lot of like what we were seeing with the drone stuff. It's like, like everyone attributes ISIS over in Syria. They're the first group to use a weaponized drone. Actually, it was the Zenolas and the Zetas 2 years prior to ISIS. And a lot of the stuff in Ukraine that was attributed to like, oh, the Ukrainians came up with this first. Actually, no, it was the Mexican drug cartels. And
You're
like,
kidding me? That I did not know.
It's like one of the things. It's like this should be bigger news here in the States because I can walk to Mexico. Like I'm in West Virginia right now, but I can theoretically walk to Mexico. It's going to take me a long time, but I could do it. But I have my slides up from the thing. I'm going to throw on YouTube later.
U.S. Border Patrol reported that the Mexican cartel flies their drones over the border to harass and then bother the Border Patrol.
I'm thinking about this. It's like I'm reading this now. Like the Mexican cartels, there's like been 60,000 reported drone flights near the border in just like Q2 of 2024 and like the Q1 of last year, 2025. And it's like, this is just the ones that are detected, but it's like averages, like it comes out to like 330 like airspace incursions a day from Mexican cartels across the border.
Oh, that's amazing.
One of the interesting things is because Border Patrol down there has been using tracking them with radio frequencies because it's out in the middle of a desert. There's no wireless access points, including like the airwaves. So there was actually the first reported incident in December of the cartels using a fiber optic drone to cross the border. And most of these are like flying mules. They're carrying drugs on. Even though like the cartels have been using drones to kill each other for like over 10 years now.
They have.
Yeah, again, this book is a great read. Like they
never hear about this stuff. And I actually read a book every now and then. Wow.
I didn't know about this stuff till I was reading it there last month. Like, and I've been into drones for years.
Crazy
That's
stuff.
Wild.
Yeah, it's like the cartels like have done a lot of stuff with drones that we don't think about.
Amazing.
Whatever is based on money, people are motivated.
That's so.
And a drone is easier than a guy sneaking across the border who could steal the stuff, run away with it, though they'll probably hunt him down and take care of him. They'll just fly it across the border, it gets picked up by one of their guys on our side, and the drone either circles back and goes home. To the point they're actually designing their own fixed wing drones that just like drop off like a bag of contraband with like a parachute or something, or just drop it with gravity and you pick it up.
They got the money to do the research and development.
Crazy.
But the cartels make their own submarines. They hire naval architects. So they hire naval architects to make submarines down there. Like that's what they moonlight doing.
Wow.
So like a drone is a lot simpler than making a manned submarine.
Well, I think we could keep going on for quite a while. There is so much here, and this is a really fascinating whole world of what's going on.
Anytime you want to bring me on and talk about this stuff, I can talk about this ad nauseum. So
yeah, it's
I was going to say,
part
Luke, you got to come back. We got to talk more. This is some great stuff. Thank you.
And like, there's a lot of stuff that like I didn't even touch on, like looking through my slides and like getting off on tangents.
Well, I know you got a lot of slides, and you know what? We're going to give you a plug. Luke, and we'll have it in the description. Luke has a great talk on YouTube and some great slides that are just absolutely fascinating, and we didn't even get to it. There's just some great stuff there.
I'm hoping to get the better version of my talk online because I did the one on YouTube that I put up that you guys watched. That's the 30-minute version because I only had like 25 minutes to speak when I was in Deadwood in October. And I did that like 2 hours before I drove 4 hours to the airport down in North Carolina from West Virginia to fly to Deadwood. So that was a rush job. So like I'm trying to put a bigger, longer version out on YouTube. I'm hoping to get that up tonight.
Is there a drone?
Please do. I'd love to see that.
Is there a drone con yet?
There is, but I'm fairly certain that it is like around DC and like defense contractor oriented. It's like I was talking to people and they're like, they have a drone company. And they're like, oh, like you, like the only person doing drones in like West Virginia with this stuff. Like we want to work with you. And it's like, it's like most of the people that work with drones are working for a 3-letter agency in DC or down around Huntsville, Alabama, where like there's all the government R&D going on.
A lot of them go to my school. Actually, it's funny because my school concentrates on aeronautics, aviation, aerospace. And we were lucky enough to have a woman on, the CIO of, the former CIO of NASA, and we spoke about some of these things too, so it's amazing.
Yeah, it's like, one conference I want to go to is It's down there at Cape Canaveral in Florida. SpaceSecCon, I think it's called. And if like it comes down between that and DEFCON this year, I don't know which one I'm going to go for.
Oh, never heard of that one. But that sounds interesting,
and,
just with the name.
And it like they have it there at Cape Canaveral, there at the NASA Center, and it is mostly focused towards like air and space. And then you got like the satellite security stuff. Those guys are wild to talk to.
We had a couple of those people on too.
Yeah, you know what it immediately makes me think of, remind everyone, there is so much work and so much innovation and so much technology being developed. And it ain't just AI. There's a whole other world of stuff going on.
I'm sick of AI. I hate going to conferences and hearing another talk about like, oh, AI, agentic chatbot agent buzzword vomit of the AI for enterprise business. I'm glad that's kind of like getting out of everyone's system, because like in 2024, that was every talk at every conference, and it's like, okay, I'm not going to this conference. It's nothing but AI. Even though I think AI, like I think we're in a second renaissance, to be honest. Like that's like my big thing is drone renaissance, but we're in a renaissance in general with everything going on. But I was going to say, like getting into like the hackery stuff, it's like the cleverness of like new technology and using these new innovative ways of using things. Like AI for drones is going to be a big deal. Like Amazon is using AI for their drones. Like I actually think that you can even use it for your own drones. Like I have that bookmark somewhere. They have like an entire like AWS platform for drone control.
I do. Oh, now that's interesting.
It's in my book. It's in my bookmark somewhere. Someone sent it to me. I've been wanting to look at that.
Well, so send it to us. We'll drop it in the description for everyone. That's really interesting.
It's like like the hacker aspect is like, okay, it's like someone attached a Wi-Fi pineapple to a drone. Okay, that's neat, but is that really that big of an issue? Well, 5 years ago it wasn't, but as drones become more common, we're going to be seeing drone like Walmart, Amazon, even like Grubhub, Uber Eats, DoorDash. They're all working on drone delivery. And what's to take someone from copying a drone, or not even copying it, because like one of the big things to talk about is how drones get past human bias and like our limited like senses and abilities. Like birds have excellent eyesight. I've lost drones to birds before.
Oh, I'll bet, yeah.
Because they can see a drone flying in their territory from a mile away. Like we have a hard time tracking anything moving 50 feet in front of us, and that's before you throw in cell phones, cars, background noise, whatever's on someone's mind with their workday. Or is a person going to be able to see a 12-inch object moving at 60 kilometers an hour, 500 feet up, carrying a Wi-Fi pineapple? Probably not.
Yeah.
Like they'll be lucky if they hear it, because after you get like above 150 feet, you can't really hear them that well unless it is perfectly quiet. This is like, and birds aren't subject to cognitive bias. Like it's like, oh, no one's going to use a drone. I had like one guy argue with me once that, oh, drones, like no one's doing this with drones. It's going to be a guy with a laptop sitting out in the parking lot with his car. Well, if you have security guards who are worth anything, they're going to notice, hey, that car has been parked out there for a while, and that guy's been sitting in it all day, and we don't know who he is. Or this guy's been walking down the street back and forth in front of this building, and he has antennas hanging out of his backpack. We don't know who he is. That's going to be quickly noticeable. How many people are going up and checking the roof to see if there's like a Matrix 600 parked on top of the HVAC unit, which was completely unnecessary? They could have had like a smaller one. Disguise it as a weather station and plant it on the roof, and like it looks like a piece of the infrastructure. Spray like rattle can it to where like it blends in with the roof. Like you can go on Google Earth and see what the roof looks like.
I'll tell you this: I have seen people using cameras on their roof using AI to detect objects. So whether it's what?
Good.
Yeah. So the whole idea behind AI is to know direction of flight. It's to know crowd gathering. It's to know so direction of flight is used in airports. If you're going out the in, that's how they detect people that should be exiting the controlled area to the non-controlled area from a flight, from a gate into the general population crowd, whether or not something's there, idling, whether something's been there for a long period of time, if it exceeded a certain amount of time. So there are buildings in New York City especially that do have AI enabled cameras on the roof looking for these type of things. I'm sure they're not as populated as they should be, but the reason why I can say that is I've been involved in some of those things at some point in my life.
Oh, it's like where I'm at, like one of the nicknames for the area that I'm in is the Chemical Valley because there's all these chemical factories down the Ohio Valley, like the Canal River Valley, going out to the Ohio River through Charleston and Huntington. And like one of the case points I made is like there's this one chemical facility, I think it's Dow or DuPont. And it's like they have amazing physical security at ground level. They have vehicle checks coming in, check ID. If you're not supposed to be there, they're not letting you through the gate. They're going to turn you around, send you back if they don't detain you and call the cops on you. But there's all these chemical derricks on their own private property on this island out in the river because it's not a small river. And it's like, I know those factories have been there for decades. My grandfather used to work at one back in the 60s. Like, those facilities are old. Do they have the security cameras facing inward on top of those chemical derricks? Like you land a drone with a solar panel on it, like one of the Russians had done, with like signal equipment on it. Are they going to notice that there's something up there that's not supposed to be there, like it flies in at night or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something big I'm getting from this discussion and actually getting from your talk also that I saw. It's funny when you talk about, the cars and we notice things, whatever. We do live in a three-dimensional world, but we largely exist on the ground.
Yeah,
see things on the ground. And now with drones, things have become much more three-dimensional.
It's like,
you got to worry about the sky now.
Security exists in 3 dimensions. I make fun of Midwesterners all the time, but they don't have a Z-axis. Like, again, I come from the mountain state. It's just like, you can be driving down the road and like 500 feet to your left is like a sudden 1,500 foot incline. So you kind of can become aware of that elevation. Elevation's a big deal. And was there something above me watching me? If you're not used to looking up, then you're not going to think about it. What I was like, the other point I was getting back to a bit ago is like where drone delivery is going to be like so commercialized, like Part 108 and all the government incentives to commercialize drones. So Part 108, I didn't finish that one either. These two will tie together. Part 108 is for commercial use and beyond visual line of sight, meaning you don't have to have a ground observer. Like you can fly beyond the horizon. With all these delivery drones, what's to stop a bad guy from slapping an Amazon sticker down the side of like their malicious drone, and people are just like, it goes back to the cognitive bias thing. People are, oh, it's an Amazon delivery drone. Never mind that it's parked on the roof of a hospital or some piece of critical infrastructure or a VIP's residence. Because it also gets into executive protection also. Like it's not just critical infrastructure and financial institutions. Like you get into like targeting of like VIPs. Like,
yeah, now you got to protect your airspace. And if it's a VIP who has some money, it could be a very large airspace on an estate or something of that sort.
Yeah, it's like one of the things like they're trying to pass now with the laws. I think it's Senator Lee, Senator Cruz, and Senator Capito, who is my senator, is trying to give legal rights to people's airspace, which we don't have. And this bill I don't agree with because it basically makes flying drones legally impossible to do, as I interpret the bill, because right now you don't own your airspace. And that was DuPont versus the EPA that was determined back in the 80s, I think.
I could easily be wrong, but I actually thought that was a much older concept, going back to the earlier days of flight to say, the government will control the airspace. It's like the airwaves. You don't own the airspace above you. Otherwise, aviation would be impossible.
Well, it gets a bit more complicated. in New York City, a lot of buildings communicate via FSO or free space optics, or they use cell towers. And what people do sometimes is there might be like two buildings communicating with FSO, free space optics, and they shoot the signal over somebody else's building. They do that now in New York City. The problem is if somebody builds up and breaks that connection, do they have a right to do it? And my understanding is yes.
Yes, I understand that they do.
But that's different from flying a drone over someone's property. You really should not be flying a drone over someone's property. Also, that's another whole story. But the point I'm making is there's a delineation between who do airspace rights over your building. If you have a building, is somebody allowed to shoot a signal above it? And do they have any right to do that? Because now it's going over their building. So whatever it is.
Okay, now we need a lawyer. Oh boy.
Yeah,
there is so much here. It's amazing.
That is getting into stuff outside my space, which is like I'm not a lawyer. I can't speak to this. Like I'm not a government regulation corporate lawyer type. Like I have no clue about any of this stuff. Like I know that if I fly over someone's property above a certain elevation, which is like 10 feet above like their property, like including the top of their house, I'm legally allowed to do that. Excuse me, I'm legally. There's nothing saying I can't do that. Like usually, like when I fly something, like, and again, I'm out in the middle of nowhere, West Virginia, for the most part. Whenever I do this, I'll drive down the road and tell like Farmer Brown, it's like, hey, we've known each other forever. Like the drone flying over your property at 200 feet, it's not the government spying one. It's not you. Please don't shoot my drone down. Please don't take out your bird gun and shoot my drone down. And I don't need to do that, but. And if he actually shot my drone down, it'd be a felony for him.
But, we talk about all these laws and things, and when you get to that, that's just being neighborly. And everything.
It's like a lot of this stuff. It's like, don't be a dick. Like, don't do anything blatantly illegal, like using a drone to hack something or fly it into something. Or there's been drone cases like peeping toms. Don't be a pervert. Like, don't do anything illegal. And I think there's actually been some cases like paparazzis out in California, like where this is kind of like one of those spaces where it's like, okay, airspace, the drone, like you're flying over someone's house and invading their right to privacy.
Okay, Luke, I'm going to really date myself and we'll go out on this. This is totally retro. I don't know if you remember this. You had to be a kid, but back, I don't know, it was the 80s, the early 90s or something.
I think it was for 6 months in the 80s. I was born in May of 89. Okay. So like I do not remember the 80s. I barely remember the 90s.
All right. Well, if I remember this right, Sean Penn married Madonna at some place, whatever, some big outdoor kind of thing. And the paparazzi, I don't think it was a drone at the time. It was a plane. And apparently he took out a gun and started shooting at the airplane. And that was a big deal. So
absolutely a felony.
Absolutely a felony. Yeah. All right. Well, Luke, this has been so interesting and so much fun. I got to say, you got to come back and talk to us more about this stuff. There is so much here. This is just great.
The airspace determination between the EPA and DuPont was 1969.
Wow.
Yeah, so like that's been a thing for a while now.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah, and I would love to be back on here to talk about this because I mean, especially after Denver, after I get more information, like talk more about like the drones and radio repeating for disaster response, which I can even talk more in detail about that for another episode alone on just disaster response because I've lived through several disasters.
Definitely. So like off the air, we're definitely going to schedule a post conference episode follow up.
Well, I'd love that. Well,
yeah, and as you go to the conferences, we'd love to hear about the latest and share it with everyone. There's so much going on.
And if you're open to it, you can even take some video and we'll post it on our LinkedIn and YouTube as shorts.
Okay, absolutely. Every time I go to a conference, I run into new drone people who have like some other interesting thing that's like, we can't all be doing the same thing at the same time. Like I was in line at DEFCON to like get a t-shirt There's like 500 people in line. The line wasn't moving. And like the guy next to me, I started talking to him. He's like, "Oh yeah, I work for Teal Drone," and he was the guy that was telling me about like the mothership drone coming down with like the LoRa on radio, and yeah, like the little drones go out and inspect the pipeline. I only know about that because I was standing next to the guy in line at DEFCON out in Vegas back in August to get a T-shirt.
You know, that's how things go sometimes.
And when I was up in Delaware, the Delaware B-Sides conference is absolutely amazing. It's a smaller conference, like there's probably only maybe 300-400 people that show up, but just the quality of people that show up, and there's like people flying there from England to go to that conference.
Really?
But like a lot of the information that I got from just hanging out in the radio village, there were a couple guys there from 2 different drone companies that dealt with drones for fire response for like wildfires and stuff. Like you have like these remote areas you can't get firefighters to that quickly. Well, they take drones out and they drop like these big bowling ball sized like orbs filled with like flame retardant that burst in the air and it puts the fire out.
Really? Oh, wow.
And a lot of the parts that they're using to build their drones are the same parts that Ukrainians are building their drones with to attack the Russians. Because he was telling me they bought like a camera module from like China, because it's all made in China, that had preloaded like AI, like target profiles for like attacking tanks. Like, because the Ukrainians came up with this thing before like fiber optic was everywhere. And it was, if the drone loses radio signal with the pilot, it target selects on its own. So if it loses contact, like over like a bunch of Russian tanks that have like signal jammers on them, it'll just fly into a tank and blow up because it has like the shape file like in its like
well, that's
machine
cool,
learning.
as long as it can accurately identify a tank.
That's the other issue.
That's the thing
I have with that stuff. But like it's like $800 for that camera, but they use that they were buying that camera to put their drones together with. For drones that like, because it's an IR, it's a night vision IR hybrid camera. You can fly at night, spot fires on the ground, and like drop a ball of fire be gone off. But it came preloaded with like shape files, like target recognition of like Russian tanks.
Luke, this has been so interesting, and I think I've learned more in the past hour or so we've been talking than really I've learned in a long time. Certainly more than watching YouTube videos. Not yours, of course. But thanks so much for joining, and we definitely want to have you back to talk more. This is a huge, interesting world and moving really fast.
Yeah, I appreciate being on here.
And I'll add to this, like, subscribe, comment, ask questions. Let us know what else you want to hear and what else you want to see. And we're definitely going to keep in touch with Luke, and we're going to provide a lot more information.
Yeah, and if you got questions for Luke, please put them in the comments. We'll have a good discussion. So, Luke, thanks again. Adam, always good seeing you. And everyone, thanks for watching and listening.
Thank you.
Take care.